How's it going, ladies and gentlemen? This is 5 tips that I recommend to people either trying to get into Star Citizen or beginners to Star Citizen. Before we get into today's video though, if you enjoy this type of content where we react to MMOs, play MMOs, and give tips and tricks on MMOs, then feel free to hit the like and subscribe button as it immensely helps the channel and lets me know that you guys want to see more. Tip number 1 is that you don't really need a god PC to play this game whatsoever. You can actually play this game on roughly a 580X, 32 gigs of RAM, and make sure that you are playing on an SSD as you should be with all of your games. But for the most part, you can have a very low-end PC and still play the game. Now, obviously, the better your PC is, the smoother the game will run, but at the same time, you do not need a god tier PC whatsoever to run the game. I will leave links down below though to some PC builds if you guys are looking into getting into a PC, or if you are just looking at in general specs of what you probably would want for the game. Tip number 2, what starter package should you really go with? Now, there is a lot of different ships in this game, and it makes it very, very scary when you're looking at what to get to start out with, but what I would honestly recommend is going with a Drake Cutter. There's a lot of different ships out there, so maybe if you have a little bit of a higher budget, then you could obviously maybe get a Cutlass Black or something along those lines. You could, I mean, man, you could even go up to the $1,000 packs and get a bunch of ships at the same time. But starting out in the game, I would get a Drake Cutter. It has good storage, it has really, really good fuel, and overall, you can customize the ship very well to be kind of a fighter in the beginning of the game. Where on the other hand, if you get something like the Pisces like I did, then it's going to be a little rough in the beginning, and you're basically going to have to grind out a lot to get to the point where you can start getting other ships. And honestly, I wouldn't go with any packs below this, and the only reason that I say that is yes, you could get one of the lower packs, but at the same time, you are only going to get a fighter, and the fighter can barely go anywhere in the universe, meaning all your beginning missions are basically just going to be bounties, and I think that makes the game a little bit more difficult because you can't explore the game to its fullest potential. Tip number 3, what settings should you be running in the game? Now, for me personally, I am running on a 4060 Ti with 32 gigs of RAM, and what I would recommend if you have the similar stats or better stats than mine, I would go ahead and just crank everything to high, but I would definitely turn clouds off as it immensely helps in the game, especially when you go into landing zones. And then on top of that, I would keep VSync on as it just kind of helps with a little bit of the lag in the game. But if you have like a super PC, then obviously you can turn it off. At the end of the day, it hasn't 100% been proven if this really helps or not, but for me personally, I feel like I don't lag as much when I have VSync on. For sharpening and chromatic aberration, I would actually crank all the way to 0, as from my experience, they can end up lagging the game a little bit, and it really perfects its performance. The last thing I would say is don't turn your field of view up past 100, as it can really start to lag your game severely bad if you go over 100 FOV. Tip number 4, there is a lot of different settings in this game, so first I would immediately go into your settings and change your settings to whatever you like, especially since I know a lot of people have the buttons on the side of their mouse these days, meaning that you should be able to put a bunch of things on the side of your mouse if that's what you so desire. Now, one thing I would immediately do is hit F12. F12 turns off the chat and the comms link. This makes it where you can kind of have a clear screen and you can kind of just experience the game for the first time and you're not worrying about chat. Although if you do want to use it, maybe you need some like advice or something along those lines, chat is a great aspect as a lot of the community is very, very helping, and it is very, very easy for you to be able to get into an area where you can be helped by other players. Now, what I use for a lot of the things in the game is I will just hit F1. F1 brings up your basic character stat menu, and basically what this means is it's going to bring up a menu where you're going to be able to look at every other menu in the game instead of having to press F2, F3, and so on and so forth over and over again. If you are fine with clicking through every single one of the F buttons, then yes, it is very easy, but for me personally, I have a mini keyboard, meaning I have to hit FN and then I can hit my F1 button. So it is very, very annoying having to go through and press every single one. So it's easier for me to just hit F1 by itself. If you are like me and you have a mini keyboard though, make sure that when you hit FN, you aren't hitting any of your movement keys, as it will basically completely lock you in place. In order to reset this though, just in case you do it, all you have to do is click FN and click your movement key again, and it will unlock you from place. Tip number 5, what to do after you've done everything up to this point. What I would immediately start with is I would go and I would explore the area that you're in. This is going to teach you about your spawn zone, and this is going to teach you where your spaceport is. Both these things are really important so you can obviously fly your ship and you kind of understand where things are as well. Once you kind of explore your area, then I would immediately follow that up with maybe doing some missions, and you can do that by clicking F1 and going to the contracts tab. And then when you go to the contracts tab, you can go through and look at the different missions. There's a bunch of different things, but that is the reason we recommended the Drake Cutter, is because this ship can basically do any of the missions in the game at this current point in time. Obviously, the more money you want to make, the bigger and better ships you're going to have to get. But early on, just focus on doing the bare minimum contract missions, as they're going to really teach you how to play the game. And then once you want to evolve your gameplay from there, I would start looking up like guides and things like that of like how to actually make more money, like how to do salvaging runs or maybe how to do cargo runs. That way you can kind of start to understand the more in-depth detail of the game. If you found this video helpful today, feel free to hit the like and subscribe button, as it immensely helps the channel and lets me know that you guys maybe want to see more tips and tricks like this. And if you guys want to know anything else that maybe I didn't mention in this video, then let me know and I could maybe put it into a future video. And maybe if you have tips and tricks for new players that maybe I didn't mention in the video, then leave it in the comments below, and maybe we can build like a little community thing where people can like come here and actually get solid advice into the future for Star Citizen. Besides that, I hope everybody enjoyed and have a wonderful night, ladies and gentlemen. Peace.